see them as criminals in the media, but actually they're displaced people, have nowhere to go.
Sister Atia Lokhat, who is the founder of Zubeda, welcome.
We basically teach Quran to refugees and asylum seekers all across the UK. In this country alone, there are 365,000 refugees and asylum seekers. We can't fix a problem if the people don't even know there's a problem. If they're not doing something now that they know about it, then there's a problem.
Do you think you being a sister is partly a problem?
There has to be a lot more women in management and leadership. The reason why we've grown so quickly is networking. Tahajjud. Send me the resources, Allah. Send me the people. Send me the skills. But this man is everywhere. And I just need to watch him. He raises a lot of money. Omar Suleiman, I met him in a car park in Doha. And he goes, okay, go ahead and film. So I was like, me? I film? Don't you have a camera person? He goes, you just go ahead and do it. So I said, okay, so I did it myself.
Bro, it's time.
It's time already?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Another big episode today, bro. Bro, my dad's been on my case for the last week. I need to send him money in Bangladesh.
So what's stopping you, bro?
Bro, it's long. The queues are endless. And have you seen where they're located? Red routes, nowhere to park. Nah, man. Oh, the guest is here, by the way. We gotta go.
Come on, bro. Why don't you use what I use?
What do you use?
Basically, it's this app that I use. It's called Taptap Send. And bro, it's a game changer. I don't have to go to these money transfer shops. I don't have to wait in the queues and I don't have to get parking fine. It's all on my phone. And I can use my card to send money back home instantly.
So what's the catch?
Bro, there is no catch. In fact, it's quite the opposite. No hidden fees, no transfer fees, and on top, if you use the KSR code, you get £20 credit.
Say no more. £20, yeah? I'm gonna download the app right now. My dad's gonna love me for this.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Problem solved. Now let's get inside. We've got a killer episode to record.
But before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, as always, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into, because it is your subscription that motivates us to keep moving forward, episode after episode. And with that said, let's get straight into the show. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Atia.
Walaikum salam.
Welcome to Side by Side.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for facilitating this conversation. I know you're a very busy woman, and we will get into what you do in a moment. But before we begin, why don't you, in your own words, tell our viewers what you do, and then I'll have a follow-up question after that.
Okay. In short, or the long version?
Just give us a medium version.
Okay, or a medium version. Okay. My name is Atia Lokhat. I'm the founder and CEO of Zubeda. Welcome. We basically teach Quran to refugees and asylum seekers all across the UK, displaced children, to help them retain their Muslim identity. And we collaborate with various masjids and madrasas all across the UK, now currently 45 of them, to facilitate this. That's what we do.
And why do you do it?
Because about 8 years ago, I was working with refugees from the borders of Syria as a landlady. I was housing them through the Vulnerable People's Resettlement Scheme. And when they arrived here, I realized this was so needed. They all came with children and there was nothing here for them. All kinds of support was being offered, housing, clothing, this, that, and the other. But this is something that they lacked. And over 85% of refugees and asylum seekers all over the world are Muslim. But there was nothing there for them. And in this country alone, there are 365,000 refugees living here. So when I saw this, and I also saw that there was other things being offered to them, like other faiths inviting them to the church. And funny enough, I was being excluded from these meetings. So I thought, well, why not offer them an alternative? And I needed to focus on this rather than the housing. And I shifted my focus from housing refugees to providing spiritual needs, facilitating their spiritual needs.
Wow. I mean, this is very, the stats that you've just mentioned,
UNHCR 2022.
They're
probably
big
higher
numbers.
now.
They are big numbers. They are very big numbers. And I actually didn't think it was that bad. 85% across the globe Muslims who are refugees and displaced. And in the UK, what, 300 something?
There are about 300 bridging hotels housing these refugees. Might be more now. In this country alone, there are 365,000 refugees and asylum seekers, and a third of them are asylum seekers living in these bridging hotels. So the rest of them are renting or, just barely renting. You're probably homeless, some of them, because they're not in the asylum seeker hotels.
So, Sister Atia, take me back a bit. How? So we're all living in the UK. You're living in the UK. I'm living in the UK. I've got businesses. I've got many things that I do.
Okay. What did you sparked it?
Yeah.
Okay,
how did you get?
Okay, let me tell you. So you just want me to talk then. I'll just talk. I could talk forever. So it started way back. Like I was living a life that lots of people I know live right now. A wife, a housewife, working part-time as a teacher. I'm a school teacher. I have, 3 beautiful children. They were very young. The annual trips to Dubai, nice 2 nice cars, nice home, living a comfortable life. And then all of a sudden something happened in my life that just literally, it was like a bomb just fell into my world. Okay. And this was in 2015. And it doesn't even matter what the bomb was, because I think we all have experienced something that just shakes your whole world. And you're like, I couldn't see the future anymore. It was just darkness. Like, because everything you would imagine, you're like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I couldn't see the future. And so I hit the bottom of a very dark place. And when I was in this dark place, I was really trying to find, a distraction, because there were times when I was very alone and my kids were with their father, and I didn't know what to do with this time, because I wasn't used to it, because I had this very busy life before, and I was like all of a sudden. And so a friend of mine, she made regular trips to Calais, the refugee jungle. And there was this one time I said, I don't know what to do with myself. There's going to be a week where I don't have my kids. What do I do? And she said, come with me. I'm going to Calais. I go and do some volunteer teaching there in the jungle. Do you know about the refugee camp in Calais in France? So there's a refugee jungle. They call it the jungle because they live like, they're being treated like animals, and they were living like animals, right?
I mean, every time we come back from France, we see like people walking about,
that's them, right? So, and you only see the worst of it, meaning that you see them as criminals in the media, but actually they're displaced people, have nowhere to go, right? Refugees have nowhere to go. So this friend of mine, a German friend, she would go down regularly. She said, come with me. And literally I was looking for distraction. It wasn't like I was trying to be humanitarian or anything. I was doing some work with, donations for Syria and things like that. But the Syrian war thing, it just moved me though. That was really, I thought I was going to go there and just see Syrian refugees. Okay. I went there and it was like refugees from all over the world. Like, I was like, wow, because they only show you what's happening in Syria, right? They don't show you the refugees from Sudan and Afghanistan and Libya and all these countries. They're in this refugee camp. And so we were working with 8 boys around the same age as my own boys were at that time, 15, 16 years old. And these boys some of them were so intelligent. They were speaking beautiful English. Their handwriting was like 50,000 times better than mine, and I'm a school teacher. And so I would talk to them. So, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they were like, I want to be an engineer. And here we were in this little shack rolling up newspapers. That was our activities, to roll up newspapers and build the Eiffel Tower. So when I asked him, what do you want to be? Engineer. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this boy, he believes that he's got this conviction that he's still going to be an engineer, and he's living in this shack right now. And it just broke my heart. I thought, wow, he's still dreaming, and he still has those dreams. Now I would love to make those dreams come true, right? And then that trip changed me. When I went back to London, like I was still going through my own personal war, or the explosions that I thought, had just destroyed my world. But when I came back from them, I was just thinking, like, my life is amazing. Like, my kids are so, they're safe. They're living in a home, and I have this. And I felt like I was being so ungrateful. And I realized what it really is like when a war disrupts your world. That's how it is, like the way they were living. That's what. So
you kind of related, like, yourself with their world and your world. Like it felt like similar.
And exactly. And I actually said those words, like, I would tell my friends, it was like a bomb just fell on my world. And then Allah is so clever. He's so wise, right? He takes me somewhere and he's like, these are real people who've had real explosions on their world, right? Their houses have been destroyed, their lives. And so he really, woke me up, right? And he also woke me up, Allah woke me up to the fact that like I was really putting worldly things and people on a pedestal and sort of idolizing them as opposed to him. Like I was prioritizing my life, my material things and the people in my life more so than him. And that was another thing, a lesson I learned during that time. And when I was going through this difficult period, a friend of mine, I was like telling her, oh, what do I do? How do I go forward? And she's like, did you ever try Tahajjud? Okay, now I didn't know how much this was going to change my life. And at first I was really offended. I was like, what are you saying? Like, are you saying I'm a bad Muslim? Like I have a connection with Allah. She's like, you need to work on your connection. And it felt really bad, like really like an insult that she was saying that to me. And I said, I'm a good Muslim. Like this is not happening because I'm a bad Muslim, And then somebody else actually said, it's because you've not been a good Muslim and da-da-da. And I was really like, that made me feel worse. I was like, wow, this is all my fault. Like this is happening to me because of me. And that was not the right, let me just say, don't ever say that to somebody who's going through a rough time, right? Okay. That it's because you're a bad Muslim that this is happening to you.
They're already going through difficulty and you're just adding more on top.
Yes. But I tell you what though, the lesson I learned, they say about the test, it was a test that I was going through. And Allah was watching every single thing I was doing. Now, in hindsight, I can see that I passed that test, alhamdulillah, because he's taken me on this road. But it was a test because I was getting all kinds of things thrown. And one of the things I was thrown at to fix this problem I was having is Tahajjud. And I didn't even know about Tahajjud. I had never heard. And I actually went to my mom, when she was alive, I said, like, why didn't you tell me about Tahajjud? She goes, I'm sure I did, right? I said, no, you didn't. Why is it people don't prioritize that, even in madrasa? Like they don't talk about Tahajjud in detail, right? So anyway, then I heard about it and I was like, okay, maybe I'll try. And then I was at another friend's house. This is during Ramadan. And again, I was still, kind of feel sorry for myself. And she told me about Tahajjud. But the way she described Tahajjud, and she knows who she is, she described it like this. She said, Tahajjud is like, imagine you are in pain, you hurt yourself. And you're in so much pain. And then you go to your mom and your mom says, come here, put your head on my lap. And then you do. I'm sure we all been through that. Yeah. And your mother strokes you, right? And that feeling of comfort you get, that's what Tahajjud feels like. And I thought, that sounds so nice. I want to try that, right? She made it sound so beautiful, right? I thought, I want to try that. And I was going through so much pain. I thought, let me try that. So I did in Ramadan. Subhanallah. Like I think the very first night I did it, I know people say wait 40 nights or so, but it changed my life. Like things started happening. The miracles just happened. And it was like the way I described Tahajjud is, like you do salah, the 5 times daily prayers, and you do, your zikr and everything for Allah, to show Allah that you love him, to worship him. But Tahajjud is Allah's way of showing you he loves you. It's for you, and that's what it felt like. It felt like love to me. Every single time something happened, I was like, subhanallah, Allah loves me so much.
What did you ask for in that first Tahajjud?
I never asked for a particular thing. I just asked for the pain to go away. And it's interesting because when I was sleeping, I usually felt it more at night because, you have all these thoughts going through your head. So I'd be in my bed and it was literally a real physical pain. I could feel the pain going up. And when I got to my chest, I would literally jump out of my bed and start Tahajjud. And this happened for years. Until the pain was transformed into just contentment, like literally. And then I was content, but I still yearned to do Tahajjud. So I just carried on. Like even now I do Tahajjud because it almost became like I wanted to know what was going to happen the next day. Like I know Allah has done amazing things. And like, I can't wait to see what he's going to do tomorrow. It's like Christmas. You know how they say like wake up in the morning. And it was like, I was just so excited because I knew it was going to happen. Like I just knew because I've seen it. He's done it. And like, why doesn't anybody else know? Like this is a little thing that I know about, like other people should know about. But okay, fine, they don't know about it, but I'm just going to carry on because this is working, you know?
Yeah, no, it's
That's how it was.
amazing. I mean, I've had the good fortune of experiencing the results or fruits of Tahajjud as well.
Subhanallah.
And you know what it is? It's so bad that I don't do it regularly because every time I've asked for something
It's
at Tahajjud
happened.
time, it's happened.
So then this is what just doesn't, it's like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like even what's happening in Gaza, we all know what we want. So have you prayed for it? Have you asked for it? It's Allah's promise. So why haven't you done that? Is it just inconvenient? You don't want to get out of bed? But Allah says, you get out of your bed for me, you leave your sleep for me, I'm going to do this. Like, it's not a lot to give up, is it? Like,
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
You know?
You mentioned Christmas. I know some people will have a problem with that. Let's rephrase that to Eid.
Yeah.
So I guess
No, but I say Christmas because like we don't have that, right? But you know, that's how people describe it. You wake up in the morning, Christmas.
the excitement
you know, they
has
describe
become
it. We have the
synonymous.
commercial, yeah. And you don't know what's going to happen. It's that feeling, you know, like
Yeah.
you wake up on Eid day. Yes, like you wake up on Eid day and you know you're going to have all these presents. And it's like Eid morning every single day. And I just don't know. And the other thing I would highly recommend is when you ask for something, like I would say, Allah, whatever void you know that's in me, you find whatever you think is going to fill that void.
It's amazing because I do the exact same thing. I say, Allah, you know what I need.
Yeah,
I don't know what I need.
I don't know what I need.
You know what I need.
Exactly.
You know the decisions that I need to make and help me make them.
And that has been the most powerful, has best outcome, right? Because when you're younger, you ask for these things like, oh, give me a husband like this and children like this and this kind of job and then you get everything and like you're still not happy. Like it's something still missing. And you think, oh, but I thought I wanted all of this. But you don't know what you want. Only Allah knows what you want.
Exactly. Now, talk to me about your accent.
It's Canadian. It's not American.
So that's why I'm careful in terms of asking why Canadian and where does the Canadian story come in?
Yeah.
Where is that?
I've been here for 25 years. I just have a very stubborn accent. You know, I think it doesn't want to leave me. But I've been here for 25 years, 1999, got married, you know, did the typical thing, you know, moved to the husband's country, right? And yeah, this was my life since then. I grew up in Canada, born in India, actually. I'm a real Gujarati Indian, okay? I was born in Surat. Was a baby when I moved to Canada.
Surat, is that where all the diamonds are polished?
Polished, hence.
Wow.
Hence you have this polished diamond.
There's a perfume. There's a perfume company called Surati as well in Dubai, and they're from, I think, Surat as well. But as far as I know, Surat is all the global diamond trade goes in or something, and they polish it, and
that's where they polish the diamonds.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'm my name Atia means a gift. So
mashallah, gift to the world. Mashallah, gift to the world and gift to our audience.
A diamond, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Now, you're from Surat.
I'm from Surat.
You're from India. Went to at what age?
Grew up in Canada. I was a baby, like two. I think maybe 2 years old. Yeah.
And then between 2 and
you're trying to figure out my age, aren't you?
No, I'm not trying to figure out.
1999 is when I moved. A lot of years.
Okay, 1999, moved to the UK, and then that bomb fell.
The bomb fell
in
2015, like a bomb. Same time Syria was having the war.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then it was a decision of what do I do? Do I stay in the UK? Do I go back? You know, there were all these people who were saying, "Oh, just go back and start your life." And I was like, no, but I've got children, I've got a life here, and I had to make those decisions and what's better for them. And so then I knew that if I stayed here, I would be very alone. And that's exactly what happened. I stayed here and I was very alone, right? And then it was like, I had to start my entire life all over in 1999. SubhanAllah, I had hardly any friends. You know, I had to rebuild a family, as in, like, you know, I had my kids, but, you know, extended family, I didn't have any here. My whole family's in Canada. So, but yeah, Allah send me the family. He sent me the people
you've got a very big family now, mashallah, with all these children.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that, inshallah. So, obviously, before this whole refugee camp and the shift that happened in your life.
Yeah.
How long are we talking? 1 year, 2 year, or less?
So literally, it almost happened to me. It feels like it happened around the same time. Like 2015 happened, and then I went on that refugee thing. The volunteer thing in Calais. Came back. I was still like, I went through a difficult divorce after that as well. But it was a very long process of what to do during that time, right? And so it just like. It happened. I can't even imagine. I don't even know how I did it. Like when I think about it, because I had to go through a lot of hurdles to get a flat that belonged to our family, to offer it to the vulnerable people's, it was not easy, and I managed to do it. Because
how did you? I mean, so you said a lot of hurdles. Like what are other hurdles are we talking
when I say like, because it was managed by my ex-husband, right? And I had to get him to agree to let me have one of those flats that I could try this thing out, But let me tell you about how I found out about this thing. I have to tell you the story, right? I might as well tell you the story, right?
Yeah, go on.
I'll tell you the story. It's basically, so when this happened, this difficult thing happened, I went to a mufti, right? Because like I said, I didn't have any family of my own in the UK. And me being the typical, it's an Asian thing. I didn't want to tell my family. I thought, let me just fix this. I'm a fixer. Let me call a mufti. Muftis know everything.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like they always have the answers, right? Because I listen to a lot of lectures, and I'll call this mufti, and I've seen him on YouTube. Maybe I'll call this mufti up and he'll know the answers. And I found his number somehow. And then we talked and da-da-da. So I was in communications about this problem of mine. But at the same time, he was involved in, I guess, other projects, with vulnerable people in the UK. And he was circulating this video about if anyone has an empty property, they can bring over a family from Syria. So while I'm thinking, I made a dua, by the way, when I came back from Calais. I was so heartbroken about what I saw, like my dua. And I can't remember if it was, Allah, I wish I could help 10 people or 10 families. I made that dua, right? Around the same time, I was like, oh, I wish I could help 10 families or 10 people, because the way they're living is so, I would keep saying that, and it just couldn't stop thinking about it, right? And then this mufti was circulating this video. It just happened to come up on my WhatsApp. I'm like, that's my answer. I just need an empty property now. I'm going to have to get my ex-husband to, convince him to let me use it. And alhamdulillah, it wasn't easy. I got it. And then I tried it. Haringey Council was the first council I went to, and they weren't even agreeing to the scheme. And I kept going back. I had to be very persistent. Some people know that I'm very persistent when I want to be.
MashaAllah.
Some people like it, some people don't. But anyway, so I kept going. And then, alhamdulillah, they agreed to it. And the first time, the family we brought, I went to the airport. They told me about it. It welcomed him. It was such a rewarding experience. Muslim family, so always had the Quran Sharif and the prayer mat. It was just instinct for me. I was not wearing hijab back then. I don't even think I only started praying 5 times in 2015 when the bomb hit. Okay. Just shifted. I felt like, I need to be praying more, right? And subhanAllah, the Tahajjud helped, and I start praying. But the instinct was always, when these people come, they're going to want, they're more religious than I am. Even if they will need it, right? So then they came and they would have that. And then I did this over and over again with other couples. So I went back and got another flat from my ex-husband, and, allowed me to do this. And we then brought 6 families over, alhamdulillah. 6 families from borders of Syria. And to me, it was just like, wow, that's so easy.
So the councils eventually, they've agreed. Yeah,
so the council they were like, because they got funding from Home Office. So they were now all on board with this. My ex-husband got the rent. Everyone was happy. I was happy because these families were coming and my dua was being answered, right? So
wow, that's incredible, amazing. And I guess I got the answer already. Zubeda, welcome. Is that where it comes from? The welcoming of the refugees?
It used to be called North London Welcome.
Okay.
Because it was just the North London refugees I was welcoming, right? And then 2022, when we registered the charity and it became a global, a national charity, soon to be global. I wanted a name which would be, represent all the refugees across the UK. And I chose my mom's name, Zubeda, because she, throughout my entire life and the lives of my children, all the grandchildren, would remind us about how difficult it was for her when she came. Her stories were just like, I still have them, I think about them. My kids and I talk about it. All the little stories she shared, I think they had an impact on me.
Mhm.
you know, and how complete strangers supported us, supported her in so many different ways, because we were strangers to the country. She didn't know anyone, 5 kids. She'd never left her town in India, you know. And so that was what inspired me to name it after her. She did not like me doing this. She was a very shy person, very modest. And she's like, oh, now everyone's going to ask you why you named it. And I said, yeah, but I want to honor you, Mom. And at that time, she was not happy. But I tell you what, my sister told me just hours before she passed away, because I didn't make it to her bedside when she was very, very ill last year, December 29th, she passed away on a Friday. Just hours before she passed away, she gave my sister a message to give to me. And she said, tell your sister I'm so grateful to her that she named this charity after me. And all this good work is going to be done with this through this charity. And, you know, I think she knew it was her time. So that, subhanAllah, I'm so glad I didn't change the name. I'm so glad I named it after her. And you could pay me, I will not change it, right? You can pay me, I will not change his name, because for me, I mean, everyone who works for this cause will get Sadaqah Jariyah, without a doubt, right? But I named it. It happened. It started because of my mom, you know, and so it will always be Zubeda Welcome.
So, how big is the charity now? I mean, what are we talking in terms of numbers? How many families? How many children? Or people?
It was before 2020, like a year and a half ago is when we got access to the bridging hotels I mentioned. There are 300 bridging hotels. You know how I was housing them in my flats?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then there were, you know, other people who were managing huge hotels, again, housing refugees and asylum seekers in these hotels and funded by the government, so that they're not homeless, obviously, because the asylum seekers have come unofficially. And so they have to have their cases heard. And sometimes it takes a year, 2 years before the decision is made whether to deport them or to keep them here, right? And so when I start having access to these hotels, and again, subhanAllah, miracle, right? Like, how does somebody find out about little North London Welcome, this Atia Lokhat doing this? It literally happened. The same mufti was helping us raise funds for Zubeda Welcome, because we ran out of funds the year before this happened. And I went to that same mufti. I said, Mufti, you've been doing this work. Can you help us? You know, people know you, they don't know me. Like, I would just ask my friends for money, and it wasn't enough that year. Because I was actually raising money for another charity. So my donations went there that year.
Yeah, and you can't really ask people too many times.
I was like, oh my God, this is like getting really hard now.
Yeah.
So he said, all right, sister, I'll do it for you. And because he did that campaign, same mufti, he's blessed. Subhanallah. Mufti
What's his name?
Mufti Abdul Rahman Mangera. He knows.
MashaAllah.
Do you know him?
Rahman Mangera.
Yeah. Do you know him?
Yes.
Yeah, Mufti Abdul Rahman Mangera. He's a blessed. But I think all the ulama are blessed. I tell you, there's been so many miracles, and it's all somehow connected with the ulama.
MashaAllah.
So Mufti Abdul Rahman Mangera, he then said, okay, sister, I'll do this for you. So then he did a little launch good campaign, raised £6,000 in like 2 weeks, which would have taken me ages. But through that, there was awareness made about what I was doing. So these contractors, like, call this woman in the office type of thing, you know, that kind of scenario. And so I went in, like, you know, bouncing, like all happy, like thinking, what's going on? And then I heard the numbers, they're like thousands, and like, oh, wow, I only teach 50 children. And I was like, but there was something in my heart. Like, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, I'm going to do it.
What did they want you to do?
Like, how can you give them, like, would you, like, we have people asking for the same thing. Can you give them access too? And I said, yep. Then they said, how will you do it? I said, I'll figure it out. I'll go back. I'll do a proposal and I'll come and tell you, right? So it was literally, I had no clue, right? I had no clue. But I just knew I was going to do it. Like, you know, like, I just knew. It was like a bit like, I'm going to speak to my office and I'll get back to you. My office was Allah. Like, I thought, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go and ask him. I'm going to tell him, I'm going to ask him to send me what I need. And that's exactly what I did. So it was tahajjud, tahajjud, tahajjud.
Wow.
Send me the resources, Allah. Send me the people. Send me the skills. Send me the answers. Send me literally every single night. I know there's this big problem, but I want to be the one to do it. Don't give it to anybody else. You know? I want to be the one. So then it was like that. And subhanAllah, he sent me the angels. The first angel was a brother, Sahidul Islam, who registered the charity for us. So he was the first angel, because literally I wouldn't have a clue how to register a charity, right? Highly recommend Impact Culture. He's the one that, you know, great consultant. So he did that. And I found out in Ramadan, the last 10 days of Ramadan, it was approved, right? So when that happened, and then once it was approved, I'm like, okay, I've got a charity. Now what do I do, right? So it was like, because the reason why I registered is I knew I needed to be creditable to get the funds we needed. So I did that. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to, even if the numbers go up, like I start to find more refugees because now I need to find them, right? How am I going to manage all this data? Like I'm not tech savvy. I could barely do like, anything on my computer, right? So that was the second angel. Allah sent me Nadia Minhaz, who was my admin last year. And she was my Google angel. Like she knew we had spreadsheets coming out of our ears. And then after, when it got really big, it was just me and Nadia doing website, marketing, like literally every operations, everything. And I was like fundraising manager. I was this manager, still am in most respects, right? Then I thought, oh, now I need some funding for staff because I'm still a volunteer CEO. And alhamdulillah, I will carry on being that, but there's no way I can be doing this. Like we went from 50 children to 700 children this year. We've identified.
In 2024.
This year, right now, nearly 700 children we have identified, right? Last year, we supported 430 children. It went from 50 to 430. Can you imagine?
Wow, the scale is
And
massive.
I had like one admin assistant and me, right? And, we have a couple of trustees, but obviously everyone's, busy with their main job and, all that kind of stuff. So this year we have 2 project coordinators who now are the official people who go into the hotels with our trustee, Amina. She does most of the visits to the hotel, Amina Hassanji. They go in and they hand out leaflets to the parents. That's how we do. We find them, go into the hotel, hand out our leaflets, ask the parents, do you want to teach your children Quran? And usually they're like break down and cry. They're like, SubhanAllah, we've been waiting for this. We've been praying for this. And it's just so moving to hear like that. Like I missed that part of my work when I used to actually have that contact with them, because that moment is just, it's amazing. It's like you've handed this beautiful gift to these parents who've been just waiting for it, right? Because they knew they needed to teach their children Quran. They knew the years are flying by. They knew that there's no way, they don't even know where the nearest madrasa is, They're even too afraid to leave the hotel sometimes.
So these parents, they live in the hotels with their children.
The families live in these bridging hotels. And they're given very limited. They're given like £6 a week, right?
£6.
Yeah, it's nothing. They're given food, basic food, and housing. And
what kind of food do they eat? If you don't mind me asking.
Like a lot of them will say they're not happy with the food, but it's the basic.
Okay.
It's what they need, like meat and chips or fish and chip, whatever it is. Like not like what they're used to, because most of these families come from different cultures, different backgrounds, delicious flavors, right? All that.
Absolutely.
And they come from really like, affluent backgrounds. People think they've always lived like this.
I went to Lebanon once, as with the deployment, charity deployment, and subhanallah, like the organizers were saying, listen, when you like speak to these people, don't think like, don't speak down, don't look down, because they are where they are, because back home, they're probably doctors, dentists, solicitors, lawyers. And I was like, wow, like when I saw those people, Syrian displaced refugees in Lebanon, wow, I was like,
it could be us. This is what people don't understand.
This is so like, it was a journey of a lifetime for me, for sure. And if anyone has the ability, you know what, you don't even need the ability. All you need to do is just raise £5,000 for the charity. And I think anyone can do that.
Anyone can do that.
And alhamdulillah, there's 4 of us that we 4 of us went and we raised 20,000 and we done our fair share. But the exposure that we've had to those,
it's powerful.
Oh my God.
I would recommend anyone with children, when they're old enough to do deployment, to do it, because it changed my life. Like,
I want to take my children out to somewhere where they can see, like, look, this is me now, and this is them, the people that are suffering and they don't have nothing or very little.
Even if you didn't go to deployment, it's here. Like these tenants of mine, that's how I learned. They were living in my tiny flats. They weren't the greatest flats, okay? They're not amazing flats, but these families came from amazing backgrounds, right? One was an accountant, an architect, a lawyer, a humanitarian lawyer, all of the teachers, so many of them are teachers. They are educated people with good jobs, with normal lives. They were doing charity work in their country. One of my our clients, who's no longer a client now, she's a friend now. She used to be a refugee. She's a friend now. She was a teacher, and in her country, she goes, I used to do charity work. I used to give charity to other people in my country from Syria. So, you know, and it's heartbreaking for them to be in this situation. In one of the hotels I went to, the mother was a high court judge, okay? But they had unlocked the prisoners, so she had to flee. And now she's in this hotel with little children, you know, and she wanted to teach them Quran. And so we were signing her up, and she was, but the elegance of this woman, you know, honestly, they don't lose their manners. You know, when we went in, she was offering us tea and coffee in this bridging hotel. You know, that is her home now. Like, she's like, would you like tea? No, like, they treat you with respect. And so you need to treat them with respect as well. So you don't need to go far to find needy people. They're right here.
I'd love to go and meet some
you will,
brothers
inshallah.
and sisters, inshallah.
Yeah.
Inshallah, because honestly, like, obviously you've said, like, you're on the, I suppose you facilitate
access to them.
Access.
Yeah, to help them, yeah.
And that feeling, I don't know how to describe it. It must be so amazing, because
it's
me just
so
going
rewarding.
to Lebanon and seeing those people and just, you know, handing boxes made me like feel like so like appreciative of what we've got back home.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess.
Well, you have an opportunity to do that on February 23rd. We are going to invite some of our families we're having a fundraising gala, our first one ever.
February 23rd.
Sunday, February 23rd in the evening.
Can anyone attend?
Anyone. So we are.
So they have to buy a ticket to.
Very limited. It's the small, because it's our first event. So we're making it small. It's 200 people. So it's going to be very limited seats. We are now today have launched a sponsorship. So if you want to sponsor us and buy tables, we're going to do the sponsorships first.
Brothers and sisters, anyone out there with a business, or if you've got like facilities to be able to buy tables and go and meet some of these children, Sister Atia is helping, then please visit Zubeda Welcome.
Yeah, ZubedaWelcome.org, or you can call up our office 075 154. And, you know, but like I said, limited seats. So inshallah, we'll do bigger events, but this is going to be a small, quaint event.
You know,
inshallah.
So
we have some very interesting speakers, some surprises.
I know. You are a hustler. You are a hustler, and you somehow managed to get all these big social media influencer sheikhs and muftis.
Do you know what I think? Do you know, I laugh when people say, like, how do you get them?
Yeah.
Why you? And I say, like, why don't you get out of bed and do tahajjud then? Like, it's not that hard.
Seriously.
I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding.
Umar Suleiman, Mufti Mink, and
all of them. So Mufti Mink, I can even tell you to the day when I made the dua. It was 27th night of Ramadan 2 years ago. So it was like just over 2 years ago, actually, in Ramadan. That's 27th night. And I even have a witness, because the person I said to, it was around the time of Tahajjud, said the dua to. I said, I wish I could meet Mufti Mink and say thank you, because he has had such a huge impact in my life in terms of listening to those talks, motivate, you know, like during my difficult time, brought me closer to my deen. And subhanAllah, that dua was answered within 3 months. Okay, I'm not even kidding. And, you know, even like before that, though, I met Brother Rahim Jung. And I didn't know I was going to meet Brother Rahim Jung, but I knew in my dua I was asking this, Allah, I really need somebody, like, I'm just Atia, like, you know, no headscarf Atia. No one's going to listen to me, right? I need you to send me somebody like really big in this space who's going to make, like, who can help, right? I didn't know who that person was going to be, right? So the next person I meet after that is Rahim Jung. And funny, I was trying to meet Rahim Jung anyway, just because I thought like he would help me fundraise, because I would see this man. This man's always everywhere.
He's on TV, he's on stages, he's everywhere.
I'm naive like that. I just see things so black and white sometimes. So I was like, because I started going to Muslim charity events after I did that campaign for the other charity that I mentioned. And I started getting invited to these events, and I was like, I like this space, you know, this Muslim charity space. This is really nice. But this man is everywhere. Like, he's at every single event. Yeah. I thought, I just need to watch him. Like, he raises a lot of money, and we need to do this for him.
Do what he does.
So exactly. I was like, I need to watch this man, right? And it's so funny. I actually saw him at an event, and he's walking up to me, and I was like, is he walking up to me, right?
Okay.
Is he walking up to me? Because I was trying to meet this person, right? And he comes, he goes, sister, I heard you want to speak to me. And I was like, right away, I knew this is a man Allah sent, right? So I said, yes, I did. And I told him what I did. And I said, like, I don't know. He goes, what do you need from me? I said, I don't know. Like, can you do like a video or something? Right? He was the only one I asked to do a video. Mufti Mink, I never asked him to do a video. He offered. Umar Suleiman, he offered. But with Rahim Jang, I asked him, because you do this fundraising thing, like you do it so well, can you do it? And he said, yes. So that was my first video. As soon as I put that out, I think then people in the charity sector were like, oh, okay, maybe she's serious and maybe this is a serious thing. Like, they start to paying attention a bit, And like I said, after that, I made the dua for Mufti Mink. It wasn't like a specific dua. I literally just said, oh, I wish I could say thank you to the Mufti Mink. Like I see him at these events, but there's always such a long queue. I never have time to say thank you to him because they rush you off, don't they? So, and subhanAllah, in 3 months later, I went, and again, I was getting my book signing. I go to all the events. I have like 50,000 books now, right? So he's signing my book. I was like, Mufti Mink, I wanted to tell you about my charity. And he's like, oh, what is it about? So I told him, and he goes, I heard about your charity. And that was like, what, you heard about my charity? This is like so, so anyway, he goes, yeah, I'll speak to you right after. Like I heard about this. And he was actually really interested. And I didn't even know until now, because I started listening to his old talks, right? That he actually also talks about the same thing, about refugees. He's very passionate about the Syrian refugees at the time. And so I started listening to his talks. And I was like, now it makes sense why he was so interested. So then he did it. He goes, what would you like from me? And I said, I don't know. Like, I just want to tell you about what I did. The main thing I was thinking, it would be so nice to have a fundraising dinner with Mufti Mink doing a talk, right? But he said, would you like me to do a video? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And he goes, okay, go ahead and film. So I was like, me? I film? Don't you have like a camera person? He goes, you just go ahead and do it. So I said, okay. So I did it myself. And then, and that was the first one. And then Omar Suleiman, I met him in a car park in Doha. Okay, like I did.
Wow, this is so like crazy.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. That's why
car park in Doha.
In Doha, yeah. Because here I was trying to get all kinds of people to say, "Oh, when he comes here, please help." I was doing the hustling that I do, right? But it wasn't working. And then I was called to Doha to speak at an event, and he was there at the same time speaking at an event. I was like, Subhanallah. But our speaking clashed, so I wasn't going to see him. So I was like, oh no. And then he did an extra lecture. And I thought, oh, I'll go to that one. So I went, but there were so many people. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to speak to this guy, right? And then on the way out in the car park, there's tall Omar Suleiman.
MashaAllah.
Miss him.
Okay, my Tahajjud dua is going to be, I want Mufti Mink and Omar Suleiman in individual time. I want them on my podcast. Can you make dua for it as well? I'm going to make dua as well.
I will do that. My next dua is I want to get Omar Suleiman, Mufti Mink, Bilal Assad, Ali Hamoud, any one of those at our events as well. Like inshallah, that we so because these are people that they've changed me and they kind of shape the duas I make. Do you know? Like they help me to make the duas in a proper way. Like it's really important how you make duas as well. Like, we were talking about how you say, I want this, and I want, like, no, that's not how you're supposed to, like you're not getting it. Like, you don't know what Allah knows. So why are you asking for something? Like, you obviously know what you, like, I know I would love to get remarried. Okay. But I really hesitate to make that dua because I don't know if that's good for me. I don't know.
You just leave it to Allah.
So I say, Allah, I would love to have a companion. I would love to get married. If you think it's good for me, then grant it for me. That's how I say it. And I never ask for what kind of person. As long as this person is bringing me closer to you, that's what I want, right? But yeah, it's a very scary dua because you get it and then what? Like if you're not happy, right?
Yeah, because obviously there's a lot of things that you are doing. And obviously a marriage can, I suppose,
So, yeah. Like my life is so different. Before I had everything, so much time, like nothing but time, right?
Now you have
my
no
time is, very little time, right? So, but you know what? It is really, I think human beings are not meant to live alone.
Absolutely.
I think
absolutely. We are emotional creatures.
Yeah.
We thrive on connectivity and connections.
Yeah. It's subhanAllah, Allah's given me that connection with so many people.
SubhanAllah, you've got a very big family, mashallah. I mean, look, when I met you at the pre-GPU event on the boat, I'm like, okay, like, okay, what's she going to say? And then I started listening to you and you were saying about Zubeda welcome. So, okay, hang on, what's Zubeda welcome? Like, in my mind, I'm trying to process everything as fast as possible. And then you mentioned about the refugees and the scale of the
problem.
And and the numbers of people that you're helping, I was like, wow, this is incredible. This is, and then I started asking you more questions. And as we were walking out, and I said, okay, you know what, would love to perhaps, do something together. And then I spoke to Abid, and, I said, well, maybe soon my foundation can work together. Yes. So, look.
Not because I love Musk, because I do, right?
Yes, I know you do. And I know a package is definitely pending. I just need to make sure that gets sent to you.
Yeah.
But I got moved. And I guess your tahajjud and whatever you do, it works, because otherwise I was about to leave.
Well,
we're about to leave. We weren't going to have this podcast right now.
That's the thing. Like it's not just once. It's over and over and over, every single person. And you're saying, how do you meet all these people? How do you honestly, I literally, how I speak to you, I literally just go up. Like, I feel like I know everyone. I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like I know you, and I feel like, and I just get right to the point. I don't really mess around. Right. Yeah. And I think some people get really annoyed by that. Like, I've actually had people say, like, why should people help you and other people? I'm like, you should help everyone. But obviously, I'm only going to talk about our charity. Like, obviously. And I think, to me, your iman is like the most important thing. Like, what we're trying to support is, like, if these children lose their iman, right, then they lose their belief that there's Allah, that He is a provider, the sustainer, the nourisher, the healer. If they don't believe that, then who are they going to turn to and ask for their housing, for their risk, for their job, they're not going to ask the right person, right? Because they won't know that there's an Allah. Like, it's just no-brainer to me. Right?
So are you saying, like, there's other charities from different religious groups that are doing the same thing, and probably they're going to steer those people towards...
Oh, well, but the missionaries, we know about the missionaries already.
They're active in that space as well.
Very active. In fact, it's really sad, because we had 430 children last year, and all those children were asked to reapply this year, because has changed over to a new CRM, and more than like half of them didn't reapply, although we still found new children. And so we've got 700 children, but so many of the children from last year didn't reapply, and we're like thinking, what's going on? So our trustee and the team went back into the same hotels where they live to nudge them and say, please submit your application again, right? Some of them said, we're not interested. Or, some of the families said so-and-so, because we said, where is that family? And because there's other families in the same hotel. Oh, they've left Islam. They're not Muslim.
No way.
Some of them. And we were hearing these stories. These are real stories. Our team goes in there. We are on the ground. Yeah. And we're the only Muslim charity that's actually gone through the trouble to do this, where they're going in regularly to go into.
Why don't other charities do it?
We don't know, right? And we're so happy to collaborate with people. There are people who are catering for these hotels. There are people who are doing all kinds of other things, teaching English. We're so keen on collaborating with those people and working with them to get access, because there are some hotels where we might not have access to get access to the hotel to these children and offer the same thing, right? And we're not even saying, like, we can go in and identify these children, right? But when we have these children on our database, we have 700. Why are half of them on a waiting list? Why are they on the waiting list? You tell me. Do you know?
Funding?
No, we have the funds right now. We have enough funds. What do you think it is?
I don't know.
It's simply because the madrasas don't have spaces. Okay. It's so simple.
So it's an infrastructure issue.
They don't have spaces, or they have spaces and they're claiming, how will we get to them? How will they get to us? How we deal with the issues, they have mental health issues. Well, but whatever the case is, like, shouldn't you as a team, like every single community, we work all across the UK. So we have children all the way in Scotland, right? Now, there are certain communities here in London, just on the outside of London, where there are hundreds of children that we have identified. Okay. And there is a facility, a center not too far. And it's a matter of getting them to that place. Now, some of them actually even have little shuttle buses on their premises that they use for their center. They just need to find a driver. Really what it is. They need to find a driver and fund that driver to pick up those children and bring them over to do classes in the center, okay? And then there's some other areas where they may not have a bus or whatever. So we've looked into Uber costs. It's quite high. So, I mean, it's about that community sitting in the boardroom and figuring out what should we do. So Zubeda Welcome has identified 50 children. They're in our community now. Allah sent them here. He didn't send them to like France. He sent them here. They're in our community. So let's figure out what we're going to do because this is our test. Okay. So shall we raise money to pay for the Uber? Shall we raise money or shall somebody volunteer to be the driver? Or shall we do like a carpool? Whatever the option is, it's really the community, partly the community's responsibility, but also the responsibility of the management of the hotel where, they ended up in this, remote area. Like, if you're going to choose a hotel to put displaced people, right? Then choose one where there's going to be a community nearby where they can access their needs, right? But if the management of the hotels have decided, or whoever makes that decision have decided to use a hotel in the middle of, on top of a hill in some countryside, and there's nothing. But
And there's hotels like that.
There are hotels like that, yeah. And there's only one little church nearby, and the church people are inviting them over and, singing carols and what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Singing hymns. That's what they have access to. That's not fair because those hotels then have a responsibility. Those hotel managements have a responsibility. In the most
Is it an
respectful
awareness
way.
thing? Is it an awareness thing?
It
Like
is an
where people don't
awareness
know?
thing.
Like,
Yeah.
do charities even know that this is going on?
And that's
I
what we're, that's
didn't
what we're,
know.
That's
I
what
didn't-
we're doing this because this is why our strategy as an organization this year is really big on pushing the marketing and raising awareness because we can't fix a problem if the people don't even know.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a problem, right? So let's start with letting people know because we can't even, blame them or hold them accountable because they didn't know about it, right? But once we let them know about it, now they know about it. So now do something. If they're not doing something now that they know about it, then there's a problem.
Hey guys, I hope you have been enjoying today's episode of Side by Side with myself as your host Kazi Shafiqur Rahman and our guest, Sister Atia Lokhat, who is the founder of Zubeda Welcome, a charity that is dedicated to helping asylum seekers and refugee children arriving to the UK. If you have been enjoying today's conversation, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into. It is your subscription that motivates us to keep moving forward episode after episode. And of course, please share this episode with your family and friends. And with that said, let's get straight back into the show.
Right?
Have you ever had this situation where someone you approached, let's not mention any names, a charity, and they're just like, they weren't really bothered?
It's not even just charity, like a communities, because these people are.
What were the answers? Like, why not?
Well,
obviously you've approached them because you felt they could help.
Example, what I was saying about the shuttle bus. This is an affluent community where there's a beautiful center, carpeted floors, everything. I went there. It was such a lovely, beautiful Muslim center. And they have a lovely, fancy, big 8-seater bus in their car park. And
they just don't have the
There's
drive.
about 50 children waiting to be, coming in and being engaged. They've been 2 years waiting, right, in these hotels. And they put them on their backup plan was we're just going to put them online. So they put them online, but they're barely online. And so now I've figured it out. Somehow Allah brought us together. It wasn't even planned. They didn't invite. I brought us together and I figured out that these kids are still there and they're not in the center. And I asked them, so why aren't you bringing them to the center? Because the online is not good enough for these children in the hotels, right? Their answer to that is we only have an 8-seater. Now, you do the maths. Let's say there's 40 children and you have an 8-seater. Is it impossible to coordinate Quran lessons during the week?
Is it impossible?
Is it impossible? Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. No. Because you literally just do the math, 5 days, 8 children a day. They could even have one lesson a week.
Yeah.
If you took 8 children at a time.
Something is better than nothing.
Exactly, right? Exactly. That's my answer, right? It's like not hard. It's not rocket science, right?
Is that thing a problem still there?
That's one example. Yeah.
Is that problem still there? Like the bus is still there and the center is still there?
Bus is still there.
No driver
I was told to contact them, this, and they were like, oh, that's a good idea. Because I said that. I said, how about 8 children? Like, oh, that's a good idea. Why don't you contact me and then let's discuss. So I've contacted and I've not heard back from that individual. So that's just one example, right? But like I have that all the time. There's another example where I found 100 and something children across the road. from a masjid, literally across the road. Okay, this is not even too far from my house. And I went through all these people saying, no, you need to speak to that person, that person. They have madrasa in that place, in that masjid. You know, go to that person. That ended up speaking to one of the people who was supposedly in charge. And they said, I'm so sorry, but we can't even have this conversation until, this was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, until like 2025. I'm like, but the kids are there now. There's like 100 children. They're going to be 4 years old by then.
Why
because
did they have to wait?
we can't, the capacity, we have our own children. I don't like it when they say own children. We have our own children on waiting lists. I'm like, but these are also our children, right? Because Allah brought them across the road from you for a reason, right? They're in your care now. And so the answer to that is they hung up on me. And I that happens a lot. I get hung up on a lot.
So do you think, okay, I'm gonna try and stir the pot a bit. Do you think you being a sister is partly a problem? Like the fact that your sister is approaching?
I think sometimes yes, but sometimes the sisters hang up on me.
What sisters?
This particular one was a sister.
No
yes.
way.
This particular one was a sister. Yes. Yeah. No.
Do you think mosques can do a lot more for these refugees? Because
you know what? It's like it's a vicious cycle. Like mosques will claim we're not getting enough funding, we're not getting donations, we don't have enough, we haven't got the capacity. Look how small our building is. We need to extend the place. But then you know what? You think when the place is extended, they start doing other things like having parties and this and that with that. They don't actually use it the way it should be. I'll tell you what though, let's flip this around and look at the bright side. I went to Green Lane Masjid. Have you ever been to Green Lane Masjid in Birmingham?
No.
You have to go and visit.
Okay.
So to me, like if I was dreaming of my ideal masjid, that would be the ideal masjid. SubhanAllah. It's beautiful, massive. I think it's old church converted into a masjid. So it's a beautiful building as well. And the way they've looked after it, and they've got everything that a community needs. They have got legal help on tap. Like everything is accessible and it's free for people who can't afford it. It's there for the community. They have legal help. They have parenting help. They have counseling help. They have help for refugees. They have a zakat sort of office. Like literally everything you need. They have madrasa. They have English support. They have an elderly. Like when I walked in for the visit, the sister Sidra, her name is, she was taking me around for a tour, and there was a beautiful lunch happening after Jummah Salah with the elderly seniors in the community, and they were having a little chat. And I thought, this is lovely. This is exactly what a masjid community center should be, where you can access the needs of the community, right? I feel like a lot of people in the boardroom have forgotten what a masjid is about. It just becomes about them. It's like a power struggle, you know? Like it was my great grandfather that started this, so I'm not moving, you know? It becomes like that. And it's just, it becomes also about cultures. This is a Bangladeshi masjid. This is a Pakistani masjid. Do you know, it becomes like, it's a politics, but meanwhile, all of our children are falling through the cracks.
Wow. Look, so if you had a, say, mosque, imagine someone said like, no, Sister Atia, you're going to have to run a mosque. You're the CEO. It's quite a big center. Yeah. What would you be doing?
Do you know what it's so funny you asked me that. I said to Sister Sidra, and I have no clue what I would do because I don't know how to run a masjid, right? But Sister Sidra does, and her team. So I said, you know what? You need to have some master classes on how to run a masjid. And she laughed. She goes, I'm so busy.
You know what? You're so right, because masjid leadership, like, how are the leaders? Like, they need a leadership training as well, no?
Exactly. It's an art. It takes skills.
Yeah.
It's not like, your great grandchild is going to do it one day. Yeah. Like, whether he's got the skills or not, just because he's my blood. No, it's not like that.
It has to be based on merit.
It has to be based on merit. It has to be based on somebody who knows what they're doing. And they know what they're doing. And
so master classes for the masjid community.
Yeah, that's what I think they need.
And how else would you run the mosque? Zubeda Masjid.
Zubeda's Masjid. So it's funny because I actually want to, once this gets going, I was actually thinking I'd love to have sort of a Zubeda Welcome Academy where we can train up like communities all across the UK to do what we're doing. So we're not actually having to access all the communities across. So they just come to us, we train them through webinars and stuff. Okay, so now you go off and do what we're doing here in London, do it everywhere else. Because it's like a structure, it's a system. We identify, we coordinate, we monitor, and we review. And it's not that hard. Every community can do it. and they can raise their own money for their own children.
Did you
know?
ever try and speak to Council of Mosques?
I'm MCB, Muslim Council of Britain.
No, the Council of Mosques is different.
Oh yes,
So they are in charge of pretty much all the mosques in the UK.
Is there only one?
There's only one Council of Mosques.
I don't know. Maybe you can introduce me.
Yes, I will find out. I'll find out who's responsible for that for that organization.
That would be amazing. Yeah, that's what we need.
Wow, that's
because you know what? Going back to Green Lane Masjid is like when you think about what the Muslim community needs, they need help when there's marriage breakdown, when their kids are into drugs, or when there's revert Muslims, they need help. When they're like prisoners coming out of prison, or all kinds of issues, mental health issues, all of these issues, adoption, fostering, all of these things. Where do they go? Right? Like they need to go to the community center where they can access. But what happens is people have these issues. They don't remember the masjid until these problems happen in their own lives. And like, okay, let's go to the masjid and see if we can help. And like I did, I went to the mufti, right? When I had a problem, I just assume that's what most people do, right? And so you go there and you just dump your problems on the masjid, fix it. My child's into drugs, fix it. My child's homosexual, fix it. But who's giving money to the masjid? How many people actually donate to the masjid? How many people say, I will sponsor that bus and a driver because I'm a wealthy millionaire? I will do that. So anything that masjid needs, they have that bus accessible and a driver all the time. Can you imagine how useful that would be? Like, it doesn't take a lot to figure this out.
I mean, I'm sure there's so many people within our Muslim community that own bus companies, that own transport companies, and for them, it's like a walk in the park to facilitate such a thing.
If one billionaire, millionaire, whatever, even a millionaire would do, right, says, that's what I'm going to do for all the masjids across the UK, is I'm going to offer them all a bus and a driver. That's it. And that's my zakat done, or whatever, my donation this year. There are people who have the means to do that. Yes, it's important to give money to Gaza, to Syria, to all of these places. Carry on doing that. We're not saying stop, but those same people are coming here. Now, imagine if you were in Lebanon, in the refugee camp. Imagine if you could say to any of those children, I'm going to take you home and I'm going to help you rebuild your life. I'm going to give you an amazing future. But you can't do it. But guess what? Some of them actually ended up here. You didn't have to bring them over. They ended up here on their own. They made sacrifices. They did difficult journeys. They lost lives on the way, and they're now here. And yes, you can help those same children rebuild their lives, give them a future. They could be your future teachers, doctors, engineers, all of those things. You can do that. So it's like, all tall talk and no walk. Some people say,
I'll walk the walk. Like, we can walk the walk.
They're here. Do it now.
I find it very difficult when people, say, I don't have money, I don't have this, I don't have that, but we have money for, say, Sky subscriptions that cost hundreds of pounds. We've got money for everything else, but we don't have money for...
Yeah. There are people who, it's like they're so absorbed. They're living in a bubble in their own lives. And I did that as well, to be honest. I'll be fair.
We all have... We can't blame them because ultimately no one's talking to them. Maybe that problem isn't highlighted.
That's why raising awareness is so important. And I was talking about the bubble. I'm not going to lie. I lived that life of, doing my kids' 11 plus exams and, focus on their future. You're so stuck
into your own life.
And our holidays, we're going to the Maldives next. We got to pack, it's like, we got to unpack, that life, I was living a life of just being in a bubble, and it doesn't have to be the Maldives. It could be anything. Everyone's got their lives, right? But, you got to come out of that bubble.
Yeah.
You got to see. You gotta, I guess I'm just learning from my own experience and seeing it. I see it so clearly now, right? It's like living in a parallel universe sometimes, because I see what other people don't see sometimes.
It's a we problem, isn't it? It's a us problem. It's not just a you problem or me problem.
Yeah.
It's a whole ummah problem.
It's an ummah problem.
We've got reverts coming in that need help.
Yeah.
We've got people that are on the verge of leaving Islam that are already Muslim, but they're going to now look at something else. And then you've got the refugee problem.
Yeah. Well, the revert problem is, okay, so the way I see it is you got this bucket, and we're trying so hard to fill in the bucket from the top, the dawah, alhamdulillah, it's very important. So, but no one's noticed the holes at the bottom.
No.
How are you? We're getting nowhere. You're not covering the holes at the bottom. Cover those holes and then see what happens. Then you will overflow, right? But it's not going anywhere because there are children leaving, there are people leaving, and we haven't got the infrastructure set up to manage all those problems. So if people would stop, just put down their arrogance for a moment, and all of whatever it is, all that's the vanity, everything and just focus on how we can work together, like look at, and I think there has to be a lot more women in management and leadership. There really has to have a good balance, because I think sometimes women's input and contributions are overlooked, underestimated, it's funny.
Underestimated by who?
Just generally. I'll tell you, recently I was told, I won't say any names, I was told that I'm a very intense person. I'm too intense and as a leader. And then I was told another female leader was also too intense. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like intense? Like I'm very passionate about what I do, right? And I'm very hardworking. And that person didn't like that I was saying I was hardworking. Oh, stop saying that. That's annoying. I'm like, but I'm trying to say it because I was basically trying to justify why we should be funded, right? And they were saying, why should you be funded? There's all of these. So we're having this kind of debate. All these amazing charities doing. Why should you be funded? And I was like, yeah, but we work really hard, and I'm passionate. And they're like, yeah, you're too intense. But if I was a man, and I was intense, and I was hardworking, and I was ambitious. And I'm also told that I'm very pushy, and I was pushy. What would I be painted as? I would be painted as somebody who's a go-getter, a success, like ambitious. But because I'm a woman and I know what I want, and I'm hardworking, and I'm persistent, and I don't give up, and I know what I want, and I tell people what I want, they think I'm too intense. And I think there's a difference. Like there's just the way people, I think it's just stereotypes. Like you can't be a woman and be all those things. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
And you're saying you can.
I think you can be. You can be hardworking and ambitious, and it should be allowed. It should be allowed. And it's not haram.
I think the stage of your life definitely plays a part, right? Like if you have young children, then maybe you wouldn't have been able to do what you do.
100%. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was asked to speak at a leadership summit. And that was one of the questions that one of the younger women asked me is, how did you manage it all? Like, how did you do this? You're like a CEO and a founder, and you're doing all this work, and then, you've got a family. How did you manage it all? And the answer to that is very short and simple. I didn't do it before. In a woman's life, there are phases.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you just need to accept that.
What are the phases?
The first phase is definitely your children and your husband comes first. Okay. Now I'm gonna come across as being very old school and old fashioned, but Allah has made it that way. Like there's only certain things that the woman can do.
I mean, it doesn't have to be old fashioned if Allah's designed
our bodies,
infrastructure the way He has.
You can wait till 40 to have kids, but you know what? You're going to pay for it, because that's not how your body is designed to be. Like as a woman, if that is what you want, is to have children, then you really do need to do it when you're younger.
Yeah.
And your children do need you. Like I'm not going to lie, they need you. Like I worked 2 days a week when my children were young, because I always like to keep my mind active. I was interested in projects. So when they were at school, I was doing my projects, So yeah, stay active. It doesn't mean you don't have to be doing. Stay in there so you don't lose that confidence.
So first phase, children and husband.
Children and husband.
And husband becomes a children. One of the childs as well.
And obviously it doesn't mean that I'm not even going to get into what the husband's role. The husbands also have a duty and rights.
Absolutely. I mean,
to the wives and the children, right? But I'm saying as a woman, don't try and do it all. If you try and do it all, somebody's going to be let down. Something's going to give, right? And we don't want to be super women. That's not what we're trying to do. But this came to me, like Allah has His timeline, His time plan for men and for women. And Allah, like you can have all of it. You can have the success, but it's just going to come a bit later. You're not going to have 25 years of it. You might have experienced, taste 10 years of it, 15 years of it, but you can taste it. Like I only started doing this 8 years ago.
So what are the other phases of a woman's life?
Life, I would say...
A Muslim woman's life, to contextualize.
I'm not an expert in this, but I could tell you about my life. That first part of my life was just about, like, obviously...
Husband and children.
Talk about after marriage, right? Husband and children. And everything was but I don't think, like, I think I took it to the degree where husband took priority over Allah even. Like
Okay.
that was the dangerous part.
Okay.
And no woman should do that. I think that, religion, if I could do it all over again, my faith would always come first,
And I think if you do it this way,
If
then
you
the
always
rest will
do
be
that,
taken care of.
everything will be taken care of.
exactly.
That's the thing.
So what's the next phase? So maybe mother becomes free. The
so
husband
now you
is
have more time when the kids are older. You have more time, and then when you have more time, you start, because you have been still in touch with your skills and developing yourself, because you should never stop developing. Always be a learner, right? Then you can find your passion, and I think really ask Allah. Like I was saying before, you don't know what you want, what's good for you. So really ask Allah for guidance all the time, and whatever it is that you do, even what I say to my children is, whatever you do, make sure it's something that's benefiting the world. It's beneficial. It's not just dead.
It's benefiting others. I mean, much like how you're doing, because when you go and speak to someone, you don't speak to them because you want something from them for you. You want something from them for others.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so much more rewarding, honestly. It's so much more rewarding. And it's nice. It's nice when people do things for you, but then it's if they want to do it, they do it for you, right? But I don't like to say, I want this for me. Like even right now, I don't take a salary, not because I don't need it. I would love to have a salary, right? But somehow it takes away the sweetness for me.
Yeah.
It takes away the sweetness. Like I know, like Allah, like I'm a bit of a, what do you call it? Teacher's pet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be Allah's pet. Like, I want to be the favorite.
Amazing.
I want to be the favorite. Like
I think we should all strive to be Allah's pet.
Yeah.
Not that he needs a pet.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to really impress him. Like I don't want to take salary because I want to impress him.
Alhamdulillah. So you said there should be more women in leadership position. I mean, if you look at big companies, you've got, mashallah, Muslim sisters, who are at the top, doing big things. So what you're referring to is like, on the charitable aspect or charitable side of things.
If we look at it, there's a lot of men in leadership in charities, right? But we're very nurturing and compassionate, and we have a different way of looking at things. It's not all just about numbers. And do you know what I'm saying? Like it's more. And even when you think about the deployments, like there are so many women displaced who are without scars and stuff, and they don't want to be comforted by the men who are there. Yes. And it's, very un-Islamic to even do so, right? When they're most vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, I recently, I think it was, I read something or I watched something by Dr. Hani. He reflected on that. And
Hani al-Banna the founder of Islamic.
He mentioned something and I read, and I'm fascinated by him. He's one of my mentors and somebody I really look up to. And he's actually supported us a lot as well. So he said something, and it's so true. Like when he was younger, he realized that then it's so important for women to be in those spaces, because he was all over the world, with lots of vulnerable people, and it's inappropriate for women to have to be in that situation where they have to turn to men when they're so vulnerable, right? And so, I think there are more women should be in the charity sector. And I think there are, but it's like it's made so hard. Like even me, like I know I'm finding it so hard to get heard or to get in. Like even with these events. In fact, the other day, I'm not going to get into names either. We went to a charity event, and I had booked well in advance. I had a Lebanese family visiting, and I really wanted to impress them and, have a good time. They were visiting. And so we went to this event, and we were not given a table, and I booked well in advance. And I was like, why? And then we ended up way in the back, right? So I'm like, okay, this is weird, because everybody at this charity kind of know me as well. So why would they put me all the way at the back? Anyway, we're at the back. I don't like sitting in the back, okay? So if you ever have to book anybody's a bit of welcome, and please don't put me in the back, right? I have a thing about it. So anyway, so I'm at the back, right? I'm at the back. It was a comedy thing as well. I'm like, I want to see this thing, right? So anyway, then how can I say it without giving away too much, right? But I was basically told, let me just say, in these words, that why do you weasel yourself in the front by somebody?
No.
Yes. And I said, I don't weasel. Allah always somehow, either somebody offers their seat, either I end up being placed in the front. But this person, what's shocking is they were watching me at all these events, which I didn't even know. And they noticed I was always in the front. So I'm thinking, why were you noticing that firstly, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is, and I actually heard a Mufti Mink talk. He once said something like, if you haven't got haters or people jealous of you, then you know you haven't made it. But if you have, then you know you've
Well, you
made
have
it.
haters as well?
Yeah, I think I do.
With all the good work that you're
No,
doing?
there are people that hate. Unfortunately,
Now,
there
what
are.
kind of hate are we talking about?
I don't know if it's haters, but it's
Like
more
calling
like
you,
people,
weaseling into the front,
yeah,
and
like,
what
why
else?
why do you get to weasel to the front? I'm like, yeah, but Allah chose it for me, so I was. Today He chose me to be in the back, which I was, right?
Yeah.
Or was it somebody who did the scheduling and put me in the back, right? We all have our nafs as well. So I think that, I think it's really important in terms of for women, because if you look at all the charity events, they always end up in the back, okay? And the men are in the front. Now, I know...
Is it because of the Islamic way of...
Islamic segregation. But I think, we could always split it this way. Like, so...
Sideways.
Side
by side.
Did you ever think about that? Like, so we have some women in the front, some men in the front. I think that seems more fair, right? But when it's always... And the reason why that's not good is because, from my experience at a lot of these charity events, the reason why we've grown so quickly is networking. Go to these events. I find out who I'm supposed to speak to, who knows this person, who does this, who does that. And I try and spot that person out and see if I can have a conversation. Yeah. I don't believe in talking to the PAs. I don't believe in emails. I just don't. Yeah. I could do it. It would take me 5 years longer.
Yeah.
And, my age.
You just want to get straight to the point.
I want to
speak
get
to the decision makers.
Exactly. Ultimately, first I speak to Allah, who's the ultimate decision maker, right? And then I think...
Your back office.
Yeah, my back office, right? And then He sends me the people. And He has sent me the people. So He has sent me the person to speak to, because it really does take long. And I say to Allah, like, I'm not young. I'm not a spring chicken. So let's fast forward this, right? Let's fast forward this.
Is that why you're always on the move? Like, you just want to rush. You just want to get it done.
I just want to get it done. And I get really, I get very frustrated. And, I get frustrated when other people are not at the same speed, And like, I guess I feel like everyone should care about this much.
Do you get frustrated when you see lack of common sense?
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
That is one that just
high five.
Honestly, oh my God, like, lack of common sense. I know, like, you can do it. Yeah. Someone can do it, but they're just not engaging their brain, and that's why they're being stupid.
I'm one of those people. Like, I like, especially my team. Alhamdulillah, I do like to think that I'm mentoring them at the same time. In fact, my previous admin, I love what she said. She goes, anytime, because she's not with us anymore, she had to leave, go into something else, but we still meet up. And she's like, anytime I'm in a difficult situation or, a difficult person, I always ask myself, what would Atia do in this situation? Right? And I thought, that's very flattering, that she actually learned by watching me, because she's much more quieter and, shy and not as us, but the 1 year, and subhanAllah, this is the angel I was telling you about, the Google angel, she learned to be more confident, more outspoken and all those things. And I really think sometimes you just need to be, like, just get to the point, and I like to think that I am mentoring stuff, but yeah, there's a fine line, like sometimes, like, you just have to have common sense.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what, like, I think if someone asks me what irritates you the most, I would say, a lack of common sense.
Yes.
And yes, speed is very important as well. Like, just being able to bounce off quickly. And maybe sometimes it's unfair to expect that from people because you've probably developed a certain thinking way or thinking power, and they can't really...
But can I say something? Like, I feel like there's something in my brain that was unlocked when I started doing Tahajjud as well. Like, there's things that just, like, I get inspired. Like, I remember my first Ramadan radio show, right? They asked me 2 years ago to do this show, and literally they said, can you submit some ideas in the morning? No, you've got this many days to submit some ideas. And I was like, first they asked me, and I've never done a radio show before. It's my first one. I was like, yeah, I could do it, no problem.
What FM or AM was it? What was the station?
It was Ramadan Radio in Leicester. No,
okay.
It was actually, no, it was, the team came from Leicester, but it was here done at Whitechapel Road in the mosque. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, they didn't do one last year, but that was my first one. And I pretended, I was like, yeah, I could do it. No problem. It was really cool on the phone. I put the phone down. I was like, oh, stress. What am I going to talk about? They said I need a guest 4 weeks in a row. Who am I going to get? What am I going to do? What's my theme going to be? And I did my tahajjud and I was like, Allah, send me the ideas. Send me the ideas. Inspire me, Allah. Went to sleep. In the morning, I don't know what happened. Like literally my brain was exploding with ideas. Half an hour, I sat down, I wrote down 4 weeks of, what my themes were going to be, I even knew who I was going to ask. I even made the phone calls and they even agreed. They even replied right away, which never happens,
Amazing.
right? Subhanallah. And then that afternoon, I called up the woman and I said, I've got everything. She goes, what? That was really quick. And I sent it to her and she was so impressed. She goes, wow, you did all this like in a day. And I said, in fact, this morning it was done. Like I only did it in half an hour. And sometimes it's like that. And I think Tahajjud really helps for you to like think fast.
Absolutely. I mean, there is no question about whether Tahajjud works or not. And another one is Istikhara as well.
Oh, yes.
Istikhara.
Yeah.
Like when I face a difficult situation where I've exhausted all my logics, then I would say, Allah, please guide me.
Yeah.
So Tahajjud and Istikhara, I think they're both equally important.
Yeah.
But Tahajjud.
With Istikhara, there was a time when I don't do it now, which I keep telling myself I should start doing it. There was a time when I used to do Istikhara every day, simply because like I thought, I just want Allah to push me the right way, like for everything.
It's like a satellite guide.
It's like, the way I described it, and during that time, it felt like this. Like I felt like I was a little sailboat in the ocean. It's a still day, and it's Allah just nudging me a little bit, like a little breeze, right?
Yeah.
And that's what the Istikhara felt like, that little breeze that just nudges you in the right. So because I didn't know about anything, like I was literally lost. I thought, I don't know about anything, what to do anymore, right? Where to live, what to tell my kids, what to do in terms of my career, anything. So I thought, Allah, I'm just going to do Tahajjud. I'm going to do Istikhara for everything. So you just tell me what to do. And so I did that for a while.
Alhamdulillah, it looks like everything worked out all right.
Alhamdulillah.
And Alhamdulillah, you're happy and you're very, mashallah, content.
Yeah.
And
Alhamdulillah.
you've got a purpose. You're so passionate about your purpose and you're restless to a point where you're restless. Like you just can't wait to wake up the next morning and just get going again.
Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. So you know what? I hope whoever is listening, they listen to this story very, very carefully and with the attentive ears. But we do need to, inshallah, finish. But before we finish, let's end with a quick fire. Be as brief as possible. Are you a overthinker?
Yes.
Where does that come from?
Definitely. I think I just have this imagination, like it's an overactive imagination.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there was a aspirational organization that you would love to work with or you could work with, which organization would that be?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Mine. I mean, I'm working with the one I want. I'm actually working in the organization I would want to work with, but
if you were to collaborate with someone else, if you could collaborate with someone else as an organization, your organization with the other organization.
Well, do you know there's one organization which does so many things that we align with, and right from the start, it just kind of we just gravitated. It was like, and it would be light upon light. And Iman, like, they do everything. It's all about Iman, right?
Yeah.
All their events around Quran and, everything, even the Ramadan, the whole month of Ramadan, they do all these. They're the only ones that do these events, these massive events.
Amazing. I mean, the way they organize it. I mean, recently they've had one in, where is it? Birmingham.
Birmingham, yeah.
In the stadium.
Awesome.
I was like, wow, okay, it's one thing having a big vision, but then again, you have to think about delivery. How are you going to deliver it?
Let me share something with you. I actually, not last Ramadan, but the Ramadan before, the 27th night, I ended up going, usually on the 27th night, they do a motivational evening. That year, they did a massive event at the Excel. And I was like, I guess they didn't do a motivational evening this year. So I went to that one. That was my first time going. And there was a little girl on stage reciting Quran. And she must have won a competition or something. And I saw her and I thought, wow, mashallah. And I thought, do you know what? We need one of our refugee children to do that. And within 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30,000, how many people were in that auditorium, will know the importance of supporting refugee with Quran. Right? I wouldn't even have to say anything. All they have to say is, this is a refugee child, gone to madrasa here, and they're going to recite for you. And I actually made a dua that night, that inshallah next year, one of our children would do that. And I was really believing that in my heart that was going to happen. The following year, the next Ramadan, actually, I went again to the event. But that year, we did have a winner, our own winner, competition winner. And I was really hoping, but it didn't happen, right? I still think it's going to happen
Inshallah,
one day.
I'm sure it will happen.
But you know what's really funny is that winner, the mother, I took them to this event because I had put out there to a few people that, can you call one of our children on stage? So I was still hopeful that it's going to happen tonight. They took the whole family. And that family, and when I was telling the mother about my dua, she goes, subhanallah, she goes, do you know what? When I saw the ad about this event happening, I thought in my head, wouldn't it be nice if my daughter, Isma, her name is, would go on stage and recite the Quran on stage. And I said, so you made the same dua. I made this, that's subhanallah, so it's going to happen, right? But it didn't happen that year. Inshallah, it'll happen one day for Isma, and inshallah will happen my dua. But you don't know why it doesn't happen. Sometimes duas will be accepted and sometimes they won't. But yeah, I think one day that would be an organization that we would like to work with.
Iman Channel.
Yeah. Iman Channel, Lightpan. I think they're all the same.
Inshallah. I think it's all led by Iman Channel from the back end, for sure. What's your core philosophy in life in one sentence? The guiding principle.
Right. Whatever I do, I want it to take me to Jannah. My ultimate goal in life is to get there.
MashaAllah. What a noble guiding policy.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And obviously, you're a very busy woman, very busy person, and you've got your family, you've got your charity organization, you've got your team. That all takes energy, like a lot of energy. What's your kind of self-care routine like? How do you look after yourself?
I walk every day, at least 10K a day. So I highly recommend walking. So yeah, walking and drinking lots of water is for me like my physical side of things. Your salah obviously is so important. I listen to Quran every single morning while I'm walking. I listen to lectures. I used to listen to music. I'm not going to lie. But gradually I just stopped listening to music. And I realized it's because I start enjoying listening to lectures and the Quran more, nasheeds, whatever. But also I find that the lyrics of music somehow shape your thinking and your frame of mind. Like even now, sometimes when a song, like a romantic ballad or something comes on, I get really sad. I'm like, this is so sad. This is bringing me down. Yeah. And I quickly I'll say, can you change the music or something, right? And I didn't realize the impact that was having on me until like now that I don't listen to it. And I think, when I do, it's like those words, they're making people think a certain way. And there's some songs with like horrible lyrics, right?
Some of them are like, especially the Indian ones, like I was listening recently. So when I listen to, I want to publicize what I do, but on my long drives during nights, I have to put something on that's upbeat to keep me awake. And then I post on my Instagram the Green Circle community. Yeah. So I've got my close friends, and then I say, "Oh, this is a tune." Yeah. And I'm like, and then I'm thinking, this is so good, but I don't understand the meaning because I don't understand Hindi. Yeah. And then someone messaged me saying, "Oh, you do realize, this is such a mushrik song." And then they translated to me. I was like, "Astaghfirullah." Right. And then since then, it's like,
and when you think about it, like, like my kids still listen to music and it actually really hurts me. And I always say to them, I was like, "Can you please stop?" They're like, "But Mom, you used to listen to music when you were young." I'm like, "Yeah, I did, but I didn't know any better. Like I didn't know how it was impacting me." So I think that really does affect people's mental health. And I would love to see more people be listening to things that are shaping their minds into thinking more positively and doing positive and feeling more positive,
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Sister Atia, thank you so much for
thank you for having me.
Facilitating this, an hour and a half long conversation.
Yeah, I could go on forever.
I know you can go on forever, but there's so much to talk about. And alhamdulillah, I think we've covered quite a bit. It's been a very diverse and varied conversation. We've covered leadership, we've covered women empowerment, we've covered about the refugee, the problem, so many things. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
I have a request for you. I saw somewhere that you sing. Would you be able to do the honors of singing my favorite nasheed?
What is it?
It's Muad's Al-Quran.
Oh, now? Yes. Oh my God, no, not now. Maybe another time. I have to prepare.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, do that one. That would be good.
Inshallah. Look, Okay. I'll work on it. I can copy. So I do the azan, the Makkah azan, I can copy it, like literally word for word. The whole thing.
Yeah.
I've done it in Canary Wharf and Tower Bridge and in
Have
front of
you?
Big Ben. Yeah. So yeah. So Alhamdulillah. Allah's blessed.
Are you Hafiz al-Quran then?
I'm not Hafiz, but 3 of my brothers are.
Oh,
Alhamdulillah.
mashallah. Yeah, I'm going to be getting in touch with your other brother.
Yeah. So Sister Atia,
Mm.
we got to end.
Yeah.
Inshallah. Let's see how we can collaborate and help each other, inshallah. And I wish you get home safe.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. Assalamu alaikum.
And that's it for today on Side by Side. I hope you have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and have been enlightened and inspired. If you have, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into, and don't forget to share it with as many people as you can. Conversations like this need to happen and they need to be heard. And I'm counting on you to spread this message far and wide. And with that said, I will reunite with you on our next episode. Assalamu alaikum.